The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
There'll be spectacle, there'll be fantasy, there'll be daring do and stuff like you would never see.
Be a movie, yeah, we're gonna be a movie,
Starring everybody
and me. There'll be heroes bold, there'll be comedy, and a lot of fuss that ends for us real happily. Be a movie, we can watch it all develop, starring everybody
and me. We'll take the world and set it on its ear.
Come on, join in. We're gonna start right here.
And we are going to start right here. Hello. Welcome to a Radulich and Broadcasting premiere podcast triple feature. I am your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And joining me again for a review of 3 streaming movies right in your eye holes, ladies and gentlemen, first, it's Mac from KC. How do you do, Mac?
I'm just fine. How the hell are you guys?
No complaints.
We're doing all right.
And that girl who's doing all right down below, that is Mik Wanamaker. How do you do, madam?
Hello, hello. It's been a while.
It has. Welcome back. Well, once a month or so, though we're going to do it twice this month, we reach back in the Wayback Machine. How far back? Way, way back. And we put together 3 streaming movies from the Netflix and the Hulus and the Amazons and the Paramounts and the what have yous. So tonight we are looking at 3 movies from 3 different streaming services. We got Nonnas, from Netflix, Summer of '69 from Hulu, and One of Them Days, which was in theaters, and then it was PVOD, and now it's streaming somewhere. I could not tell you where. But I'll go to you first, Mac, and then Mick. When I threw this together, any idea what I was doing, or what these movies were all about, or are you just kind of here for the ride?
I do attempt to follow your thought, but once again, I got a headache and I had to stop.
One of these things is not like the other. One of these things is dead.
It's entertaining, but what do you do?
All right, how about you, Mick?
I was not able to find a connection, but I have seen One of Them Days like online a little bit, trailers for it before you even put it on our radar. So
the connection is these are, to one degree or another, 3 distinctly different comedies.
Oh.
Gee, I wonder how we missed that, Mick.
I don't know. It's like I'm trying to think of something deeper or something.
I was gonna say, yeah, like some thread that might reach into greater meaning than these are all snowballs. Yeah, I get it. Okay.
I am a simple man with a simple plan, kids. All right. So let's get into the first movie. We'll not waste any time. It's actually I have to tell you, I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag early. I'm gonna surprise everybody. This is my number 1 movie of the year right now. And that movie, yeah, no shit. This is right now, this is the one to beat. This is my favorite movie of this year. I think the best made movie of this year. And it is Nonnas, a 2025 American comedy drama film directed by Stephen Chbosky, written by Liz Mackey and starring Vince Vaughn, Lorraine Bracco, Talia Shire, Brenda Vaccaro, with Linda Cardellini and Susan Sarandon. The film is based on Joe Scaravella's life, the owner of Staten Island restaurant Enoteca Maria, who risks everything to honor his recently deceased beloved mother by opening an Italian restaurant with actual grandmothers as chefs. A co-production of 5th season, One Community, Madison Wells, and Matador content, the film was released on Netflix on May 9th and received mostly positive reviews. As the film was released during Mother's Day, weekend in the U.S., the film hit. Yes. The film hit number 1 in the country. It's a little less than 2 hours, and it's got an 81% on Rotten Tomatoes. So let's get into it. Did you guys look at trailers for it? Did you, when you sat down to watch this, did you do any research beforehand, or did you just go in cold Mac and then Mick?
This entire set caught me at a very awkward time. I literally saw the last of the 3 films this morning. No, I had zero preparation, which is sometimes good. I get over prepared and I sometimes extrapolate too much, but at the same time, it's fresh in my head.
How about you, Mick?
I went in this one blind, entirely blind. I know, like, you've talked a little bit about it, but I was interested in seeing what you were talking about, and we'll get into that later.
All right, so I won't do a tremendously long plot synopsis, but a basic thing here is you've got a young boy who loves his mother and he loves his grandmother, and they are traditional Italian folk. And he is raised in the ways of Italian cooking, and he grows up to be an adult, unmarried, no kids, working for the MTA as we all do, and or is that the MCA? And his mother dies, and she leaves him some recipes, and he starts cooking through the recipes, and she leaves him some money, and he's got a best friend and the wife of the best friend, and they're like, you should do something with your money. You should live a little. You should, stop hiding from the world. Go do stuff. And so he says, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to open a restaurant that'll honor my mother's cooking by having grandmothers cook. And this sounds totally gimmicky and unrealistic, but he's committed to this idea because he wants to stay connected to his beloved mother. So
we're going to get a lot of that tonight, aren't we?
Mudder. I mean, I could go the Al. I could go the Al Jolson route if you want, and we can really get fun. Mammy.
I'm ready.
It's your sonny boy, Mammy. Mammy. Anyway.
Jazz hands.
That's right. Anyway, he ends up getting the one neighborhood grandmother, another friend of the family that he grew up with, and then an ex-nun comes to work for them, and then finally a local hairdresser, perpetually single hot woman who is Susan Sarandon goes to work for him as well. And now he's got his 3 chefs and his pastry chef, and he's got his restaurant. And the movie is basically all kinds of problems they have getting this restaurant off the ground. But he is committed, and he keeps going, and he keeps going. And finally they have the restaurant, but he can't get people to come see it. And so he hustles, and he motivates, and he moves, and he shakes, and he gets one person to review the restaurant. But it's such a wonderful experience. The world finds out about it, and they are finally a success. And he's able to, and he's also along the way picked up Linda Cardellini, and so they fall in love. And he has everything that he wants. He has the woman, he has the memory of his mother, the connection. He has the restaurant, which is his live stream, and all is well that ends well. And this is a real story. This actually happened. A guy opened a restaurant where grandmother's cooking. In the final chronos at the end of the movie, they talk about how different grandmothers from all over the world have come to work there to cook. And it's about, it's one of these restaurants where it's about the experience less than it is about the food. So I will go to you first, Mick. What did you think of Nonnas?
Nonnas was so sweet. It did make me tear up a couple times because, I don't have any. My grandma's still alive, and on both sides, and then of course my mom's still alive. But it just makes that soft spot kind of. I don't know. It makes sense why it got released on Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Honestly, I was so excited when what's her name? Susan Sarandon came on screen.
Susan Sarandon, yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I yelled Janet.
You should have said, damn it, Janet.
Damn it, Janet. But honestly, and I'm looking at my notes here, I'm interested. I forgot to do some research beforehand, but I want to know if that original restaurant's still open.
It is.
Okay.
Apparently it's harder to get into now than it used to be, but yes, it's still around.
This movie definitely goes into the heart of how food affects everyone. It affects families. It's the memory that you hold, and they talk a lot about that in the movie too.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's who you're around, and having Mama's favorite recipe or whatever. I wish I had family members who actually did stuff like that.
Uh,
You're not done yet.
Just one more thing.
yeah.
I want to say my favorite Nonna was Roberta. She cracked me up the whole time.
Which one was Roberta?
She had the glasses on.
Was she the?
Oh, the really thick glasses. Yeah.
Yeah, the really thick ones.
Oh yeah, the angry Sicilian.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's her. Yeah.
No, I loved her the whole time. She reminded me of the mom from Golden Girls.
Oh, not B. Arthur, Estelle Getty.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's Sicily. Picture it, Sicily, 1939. Here's why this is my favorite movie of this year. One, I think it's extremely well made. I think everybody turns in a stellar performance. They really do create characters out of. You know, I think we tend to think of like horror or action fantasy where this is your avenue to create characters. And I'm like, no, you can create. I mean, like Vince Vaughn created a performance. He turned into presumably what the guy is really like. You know, all of these grandmothers from Talia Shire. Talia Shire knocks it out of the park in this. Everybody turns in. I'm gonna do that all night. Turns in a transformative performance. So there's that. In terms of, they shot this thing in New York, and it absolutely looks like it. It looks and feels like the area that it's shot in. And it kind of transports you to, I mean, it's not a different world. It's clearly Earth. It's New York, it's New York City, but it makes it feel very separated from your everyday life, like it's a different kind of place. Very secluded from the world, which I liked. It was transformative, and it transported you to a new and wonderful place. But I think the thing that resonated with me about the movie the most is exactly what you were talking about, Mick, is how food connects us, how food reminds us of places we've been and people we've experienced. I also have an Italian grandmother. I am also from Sicily, both northern and southern Italy. I've got, my last name is very Italian, Radulich. So,
Yeah.
no.
Damn it! I knew I was missing something.
Yeah.
You just gave it up from the start, man.
Oh yeah. So my paternal grandfather's side of the family is from Croatia, which has always been disputed territory, Trieste rather, which has always been disputed territory between Croatia and Italy. So I've got part of my family from northern Italy, and then part of my family from Sicily, which I was joking with my kids tonight. Sicily might as well have been its own country, for the way they distinguish themselves from the rest of Italy proper. But I grew up with very Italian grandparents, and my grandmother, especially my Nana, I love dearly. I don't like a lot of my family, but she always was very kind to me, and she always tried to teach me things. Like, she had a garden in her backyard in Massapequa, Long Island, and I remember she was like walking me through her garden. She was like, "This is how I hold on to my Sicilian roots, because we're farmers, and I know we live in this, hoity white suburban area of Long Island, Massapequa, Long Island, New York, but I still need to feel close to home. And so this is how I do it, by growing tomatoes and herbs and whatnot." She tried to get me to grow tomatoes, and I have a black thumb. So, but she cooked all the time, and I remember big Sunday dinners and Italian seafood sauce and all of this other stuff. And some of the stuff I was able to find and recreate, as did some of my other relatives. Some of the stuff is lost to time, but that's what it reminded me of. So the idea of your grandmother, nobody loves you quite like your grandmother, and and she shows you that love through food and care, and I like that about the movie. I bawled a couple of times during this. I broke down. It was that convulsive crying. It touched
Pretty stuff.
it touched me in a bunch of different places. I love, it's a very well told movie, because this was not as the movie tells it, it was not an easy thing for him to get this off the ground. He faced a lot of obstacles, not the least of which was he is not somebody who knows how to run a restaurant, and he just kind of went by the seat of his pants. And then you have these 4 distinct personalities with the grandmothers. And I loved their story, how they came from 4 different places and they were deeply distrustful of each other or disliked each other. And they found family over time. The bit where Roberta was like, I don't talk to my kids anymore and they don't talk to me. And if I could do it all over again, I might have loved them a little bit differently. And then, over the course of the movie, she reaches out to one of her kids who, the way I saw it in the scene, seemed happy to hear from her. And I'm really holding back a lot of tears right now because that touched me big time. Talia Shire, I think she's underrated actress. I think because all anyone ever knows her for is the Rocky movies. And, I don't know if you guys know this, if you've been working with me long enough, but I named an entire character scale after Adrian. And the Adrian scale is the worst nagging wife, the most negative nagging wife in the history of film. If you're a 10 on the the wife from Breaking Bad is a 10 on the Adrian scale. But the actress herself is quite lovely. And here, I didn't realize she was even still alive when she did this. But this idea of the, secretive lesbian nun, and she walks away from the faith and all that. Some might call it cliche, and I think in my more cynical moments, I would be one of those people. But here, I think it works and it's fine, and not everything has to be a fucking culture war. So I very much liked her performance. I liked what she had to say, and I don't really care that she's one of the many lesbians living amongst the nunnery. So I'm gonna let Mac cut in here. Mac, what'd you think of the movie?
I had a tough time sitting with it. It was, let me say this just right. If you've read anything about the love languages, one of the love languages is service, and service amounts to food or helping or viscerally doing something in the real world to make someone else's life better. And people who can experience food or experience love as food understand it. They understand the careful preparation. They understand that I'm not just slamming a plate down in front of you. I have evoked my emotion into warmth, and I smelled it, and I was careful it was the right texture, and I brought it to you that way. And that's how anybody who really cooks does that. So I loved that was made very focused into an Italian window, when in fact it's the whole world.
Yeah,
it's everybody. It's a concentration of how we all treat food, not just food that we need to survive, but in better times when food is expressive. And that's the whole idea in having a nonna make your food. It's not that it was just made by someone who happens to be a grandma. It's the idea that they're giving something more into it, or they wouldn't be serving you. So I really loved that the overriding message was, here's the thing we're trying to do. It's almost coldly practical. We're trying to make a restaurant. There's nothing more business-like you can do. And yet, his motivation is the antithesis of why anyone opens a restaurant. He wants to evoke the nanas around him and show the whole world why he loved his.
right.
So I had a little trouble getting my head around it, but once I did, I shed a few tears too.
Cool. I was since I moved out and I've been living on my own and I have my kids every other week, I've really gone out of my way to make special dinners for them. Like, it started out as, I needed to cook for my kids. And on Sundays I had time to cook, and during the week I don't, because I worked a full-time job. So, during the week it was like skillets and hamburger helpers and, really, fish sticks, really quick stuff I can't spend a lot of time on. But I didn't want that to always be that way. So as an expression of love and care and wanting to show my kids the seriousness of it all, on Sundays I would always plan these elaborate meals. And some of it was the ex-girlfriend had left a lot of food behind, and none of it I was ever going to use. So I was like, let me cook through some of this stuff, because I can't stand waste. I can't stand clutter. Like, if you ever come to my house, I'm very minimalist. Not quite Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory, like 2 folding chairs. get a television on a snack tray. But it's very bare bones in my house. I don't like a lot of stuff just lying around. I like to keep it clean. And when I went into the cupboard, all I saw was just a lot of junk, a lot of stuff I didn't know what to do with. So I would throw the ingredient into ChatGPT and say, make a meal around this, which is why I'm rubbing pork loins and coffee grounds and, making chili sauces as a gravy for spaghetti, and cooking a lot of fish and whatnot. So, and using croissants as buns for hot dogs. This is all in my TikTok.
It works.
Hey, cooking's just experimentation.
Yeah,
that's right. That's exactly right.
And most of it worked out okay. My son loves my cooking. But this was all. But again, and I actually talked to my kids about this. This was all to kind of show my kids love. Like, I don't know how else to do this. This is my way of showing you that I care, that I'm interested, I'm invested. And and they said, you can tone it down a notch. You don't have to do this every night. Anyway, so I think it's because of that, because of my own experience with my own grandmother, and because this is just a very well-made movie. I have not, movies should evoke emotion. You should not lie there dead and glass-eyed. And more so than Companion, which up to this point was my number one movie of the year, this one had me all kinds of emotional, and it was very well made. So there's no way this would have made money in theaters, not in the year of our Lord 2025. But
no.
This got, I think, shown around film festivals, and there was a bid for it, and I think it was in the right place on Netflix. And I think, unlike some of their other disasters, Netflix handled this the right way. The right poster, the right release date, the right marketing for it. I think all things came to a good point with Nonnas, and I would highly recommend it. Mick, I'll throw you the last word here, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, I did see someone talking about how, like, instead of Netflix's original, like, sometimes they go Hallmarky, like we've reviewed the Christmas movies and whatever, and then sometimes they go...
And Mac's favorite movie, La Dolce Villa.
Damn it, Mark! I thought we were going to get away from that.
Never.
This man likes to torture me.
I like to torture lots of people. Go ahead, Mick.
But this one was well done. Like, it had a good balance to it. It didn't feel like, oh, it's another Netflix original, like, that everyone's going to forget about.
Yeah, Netflix produces so much sludge. I've started to refer to Netflix as the sludge factory. But this one was a diamond in the rough.
I
go ahead.
Two more real quick.
Yeah, sure.
Soundtrack was amazing. I want to make a whole playlist for it. And the second one was that... No, I think that was it. Sorry, I'm reading my notes.
Overpromised. All right.
I
Mac, anything else before we move on?
Mm-mm.
Mac?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Well, then let's get into Bryan Adams' favorite movie, The Summer of '69, which is an American comedy film directed by Jillian Bell. And Jillian Bell is an actress, but this is her, and she's been in a whole bunch of stuff that you've seen. Like I said, if you don't know who Jillian Bell is, sure you do. She was in Bridesmaids. She was in 22 Jump Street, which I think she's either been nominated or won a bunch of awards for. She's done some voice work, like in the Angry Birds movie. I think she's most known, and she was the executive producer for Brittany Runs a Marathon. She plays Dr. Taylor Wood in Bill and Ted Face the Music. She was just recently in Good Burger 2, Candy Cane Lane. She's Kate in Kinda Pregnant. You guys should remember her from that. Mm-hmm. She was also, in as far as television goes, she used to be on SNL. She's been in like Gravity Falls, Drunk History, Bob's Burgers. So whether or not you realize you know her, you know who she is. This is her directorial debut. The movie was written by herself, Liz Nico, and Jules Byrne. It stars Chloe Fineman, Sam Morello, and Matt Cornett. It premiered at the 2025 South by Southwest TV and Film Festival and was released on Hulu May 9, 2025, just opposite Nonnas, in case you were wondering. This is about 100 minutes, and it's got a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes, believe it or not. So Any thoughts about this before I try to speed through a plot synopsis, Mac?
Just that for I'm going to call this a low budget. It's not really a low budget movie, but for a movie that didn't command millions and millions of dollars, they broke some rules regarding making this kind of sympathetic character, and I'll go over that when I get to the review itself. I was kind of proud of them for that.
Mick, you're a young woman, but you have an old soul, and so I wonder, between the soul and your actual chronological age, are you aware of the teen raunchy sex comedy?
I am. Actually, I really liked this movie. It's probably going to be one of my favorites of the year.
This, I'll tell you, we'll get into more of this as we discuss it. But I am as you know from a triple feature I did with Dorian, where we did Hard Bodies, Spring Break, and 10. I am a fan of the raunchy sex comedy, the teen raunchy sex comedy, as a matter of fact. I have reviewed all the Porky's movies at length, intellectually. I've not got.
I'm sorry. Did I laugh out loud?
I have not gotten around to Revenge of the Nerds yet, but a couple years ago, God, what's her name? Jennifer, Hunger Games.
Lawrence.
Thank you. She did a movie that was like a real throwback to the raunchy sex comedy. I can't. The name is escaping me. I'll look it up in a second. But like, it was so like I've had this conversation over the years about how the raunchy sex comedy coming out of the 70s and was prominent in the 80s kind of dies by the time we get to the 2000s. Like, American Pie is probably like the last, and the Van Wilder, Animal House movies were kind of like the death throes of that style, and it got utterly replaced by the drug movie.
Stoner comedy.
Yeah, the stoner comedies. And then we never really got away from that. And, the world, the American Western culture doesn't seem to want it, but I think we're sorely lacking it. And I'm glad. And it's weird because this movie is absolutely a throwback to that era, but it is a raunchy teen sex comedy without the raunchy sex. Which it's like this is an Israeli-Palestinian compromise if I've ever seen.
Well said. Very well said.
We'll give it to you, but we're not going to give it to you. Like, all right, what are we doing this for then? Because they're all people and they must have a place to live. That's why. All right, fair enough. So, with that said, Summer of '69 goes a little something like this. We have a girl in the world, and she likes a boy, and the boy is pretty, and the girl is awkward. She's a Twitch streamer, and she has got protective parents, and she just doesn't know how to get this boy to like her. So she says, so she talks to the town snitch, and she says, "Snitch, tell me his secrets." And she says, "Well, he likes the 69. How about that?" And she says, and she says, "60 what now?" And she's like, "Well, I don't even know where to begin." And so over on the other side of town, on the wrong side of the tracks, is a blonde ne'er-do-well gal who works in a dirty strip club. And that dirty strip club is run by a moron. And so that moron owes the mob about $20,000 to keep the place open. And if she doesn't, and now we have our ticking time bomb. So if she doesn't pay the mob back, and within a week, then she loses the whole thing to the evil mob boss. And so our blonde ne'er-do-well dancer says, "But what if I am able to raise the money and save the club? Will you let me be the owner, and we can continue to work here?" And she says, "If you can manage it, you can have it." So it just so happens that our two leads find each other. Our young girl is in need of a sex coach, and the sex coach is in need of a rich girl, as often as these things play out. So she says, "All right, if you teach me how to be sexy and how to woo this boy in '69, then I will give you $20,000. She says, "Fantastic. School's in session." So over the course of a week, because that's all these movies need is a week, these two become friends. They be mentors. We have a lot of fun together. They know each other a little bit better now. But oh no, there is an obstacle, and that obstacle is the girl doesn't have the money. And our other dancer girl, she we learn about her over time that she because she relied on her beauty, she did not grow any skills or a personality, and she feels bad about herself. So they end up in a fight. They break up, and the girl goes to woo the boy by herself, now being a master of the 69. And our blonde friend goes to her high school reunion. And as it turns out, as we all find out in late adulthood, life sucks and nothing gets any better. All of our dreams dashed upon the rocks.
Absolutely.
What you make will dash. Yes.
Yes. And she says, well, I feel a little bit better now. I didn't make all the wrong choices. And so the girl with the boy, she goes to say, all right, as hard as I've tried here, I cannot 69 you. And he went, you misunderstand, madam. It's not that I like the sexual position 69. It's having to do with sports. And she goes,
hockey player.
Yeah. Oh, so he says, oh, well, I feel sheepish now. And he says, don't feel sheepish, young gal. I like you just the same. Oh, and by the way, I'm a virgin too, so we can both be equals. And she says, well, that's fantastic. But then she finds out that our blonde dancer friend doesn't have the money for the mortgage on the farm. And so she gets all the 18-year-olds at this party to go to the strip club. And she does, because this was set up earlier in the movie, a play on Tom Cruise's Risky Business. That old-time rock and roll. And she dances like a mannequin that was shocked, with electricity.
That's a great scene.
There is a Japanese wrestler. It's a sex doll. And but there's a guy moving the sex doll around. And a lot of times the guy will just be outside the ring. And he's dressed in all black like you would if you were a stagehand. And the wrestlers will just work with the doll and they'll throw it hither and yon and kick it into the ocean and stuff. That's kind of how she dances. She's like a Japanese sex doll being kicked around by some Indian wrestler. Horrible. Anyway,
She always starts in the right place, but then she veers away.
Yeah, the very definition of teen awkwardness. So anyway, they raise just enough money to make it interesting, but not enough to win the day. However, because our young dancer friend had made a friend at the reunion,
Class reunion.
as it turns out, her husband is a big fan of the stripper, so he gives her the money, and all's well that ends well. They're able to save the club. And that's it. They've made up. The club is saved. The boy is wooed, and they all lived happily ever after. I will go first to you again, Mick. What did you think of the summer of '69?
Like I was saying earlier, this is I think one of my favorite movies of the year it's gonna be, because I enjoyed the comedy of this. I was afraid it was gonna be more of the awkward comedy.
Yeah, like secondhand embarrassment kind comedy.
Yeah,
I'm cringy.
but I kept watching, and it was funny throughout. I was enjoying myself. This falls under the Wanamaker compromise. I had a thought at some point of watching the movie. I was like, there is no way that a strip club would let 18-year-olds in there. Period.
This is less believable than the never-ending story. What is this fantasy?
These interactions would not be happening at all. But I did find it interesting that the teenagers in the movie actually look like teenagers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Nobody looks like they're 25 playing a 15-year-old.
Exactly. It wasn't like my first thought was Troy Bolton of High School Musical. It was like, he looks 30.
He does.
But my favorite part of this movie was probably the ending. Because I'm talking and I'm gonna straight up spoil this, but the 80s feel of the boyfriend pulling up, or I guess the interest pulling up in the car, playing the music, and then they finally have the first kiss.
Yay.
Yep.
And it was that was very sweet, and I enjoyed that. And I'm definitely gonna be watching this movie again and again.
This is a feel-good movie.
It is a feel-good movie, and I need more of those in my life.
I do understand. I think we all need some of that.
It's a big, I keep saying, it's a big reason why I've been doing these, is because this is where I'm finding stuff I really enjoy and doesn't, you seen Damn You Hollywood lately? I look like by the end of it, I'm going to shoot myself. So
A little.
Well, that's why you call it "Damn You Hollywood." It's not, "Gosh, I'm happy about things."
Yeah, exactly. But but that's why that's why I do these, because I'm finding stuff that reminds me I enjoy movies in this category than I am in this typical stuff we do in Damn You Hollywood. Mac, what'd you think of the summer of '69?
Well, like you, I was kind of shocked in my seat that this was a classic teen summer sex movie and sex comedy. And, that was something you saw a lot in the 70s, but then it dwindled away into other things. People got mad at it because it was consequence free. People were having all this fun and no one was getting pregnant or diseases or stuff. So it died. And then here it is, bam, right in front of us. And the way they got away with a lot of that was, you're right, they left the raunch out. They promised it in the title. I mean, but there's a whole lot of innuendo. People speak raunchy, but the doing of the raunchy things, if it happens at all, it's off camera. And
it reminds me of Superbad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes. I thought, when I realized what they were doing, I thought, okay, well then they're gonna go through every cliche thing that they did in the 70s. The young innocent girl is going to look like a supermodel that they've put a bad wig on and glasses, who she will later reveal that she's so beautiful. And oh my God, we didn't see that. But with San Morelos, I think I'm saying it right. She actually looks teenage. She's not a refined actress model. She's cute, but I mean, she's just a healthy girl with a great smile. And the glasses are not going to come off and reveal a supermodel. It's not going to happen. And they did the same thing with Santa Monica. Here's this stripper. Well, this is not going to be some famous Hollywood body beautiful. This girl's she's beautiful, but she's a little flat chested. She's not the curvy hourglass that we'd see in all those summer sex movies. And she's not why is she dancing here? She should be in New York or LA. And yet here she is in Podunk, wherever they are. So they broke all of that. And then the biggest thing they broke is the first thing you mentioned. They promised all these nude people dangling out of cars with genitals flapping in the breeze. All that, we were waiting. People who had seen those movies, we were waiting for that to happen, almost in some distress. And they didn't go there. Even when the actress, the lead, gets a moment alone with her guy, and they realize that 69 is a hockey player's jersey number, and they begin to kiss. She goes, "Oh, wait a minute!" and she leaves the room. And good God, man, we're not going to get past hand-holding here, and they don't kiss till the end. And it's like, okay. And again, it's not an experienced, ravenous kiss. It's I'm just now learning how to kiss with you. It was sweet. It was innocent. It was completely beautiful. And it's not what you expect from summer of '69. So they broke a whole lot of rules. And by the end, I was simply delighted with it.
Simply delighted is a great phrase, because that's about my one take review of the summer of '69. It was just wonderful. Just simply delightful. By the way, the Jennifer Lawrence movie I was referring to earlier is No Hard Feelings, which, that at least had a naked Jennifer Lawrence punching people on the beach. But, which is worth the price.
I enjoyed immensely, by the way.
Yes. But yeah, I enjoy movies like this, and I think that it wasn't ruined by gross out humor. It wasn't ruined by a lot of, her awkwardly dancing is about the cringiest as it gets, but because she's earned the right to dance awkward, and for you to go, there, sweetie, you tried your best.
Yeah.
That was brave. That was so brave of her.
Yeah.
Because in the first scene, she sees the stripper dancing like that, and she's stunned. And here she is, zero experience, zero understanding, wearing looks like a long sleeve shirt, and she's after it, man. She starts in the right place, and then she slides down the pole, or she leans over on all fours, and she can barely wiggle. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Like, it's harder than people think, and that's exactly what a regular teenager would be doing.
Yep.
This movie had more layers to it than I think the average like this. This wasn't, again, the problem with the raunchy sex comedy of the 80s was a lot of them were just an excuse to put tits and ass on screen.
Yeah. And
there wasn't much more to them than that, which is, I think, another reason why they died out. This was about something. This was, the movies that are done well, these are movies about finding one's confidence. not just the teen girl who lacks it, such to the point that she feels she needs a coach in order to woo a boy, but you have the stripper Santa Monica, who also lacks confidence. Now there she is. She's a sex bomb, sex kitten. She is all out there being and you would think that because you dance naked you have confidence. Meanwhile, she feels like she's failed at life, that she's ashamed of what she's become, and while she's comfortable with it, she feels like she'll be judged by those around her, and so she doesn't want to engage with the outside world. I think it's something that's readily relatable for a lot of people, is that feeling sometimes that like you peaked in high school. Like it's never getting any better than it was your senior year of high school, and that is a hard pill to swallow at times. Or even if it's not quite that bad, but you had such high hopes and you had to settle for mediocrity. It's a hard thing to live with, and it's a hard thing to go back and tell people about until you realize a lot of people are going through it. Every day I am reminded that my life is not that bad. I am not the only divorced dad on the planet, and people have it so much worse than I do. So I just go, I'm fine. It's good. I'm grateful. Shut up. Don't do anything else to me. So the girl, not a traditional lead in movies like this, but that's okay. We're a changing world. We're a changing time. And I think it was nice to kind of be outside of that. We cry so much about like race and gender and sexuality swapping. And we always say, well, if you want non-hetero white people or white males to be the lead in your movies, then go make new characters. So then so that's what this movie did. This wasn't based on anything. This didn't take someone's canon and switch it around. They decided to write a familiar story, but a story. And they said, well, here's going to be our lead girl in it. And she's great. She actually has a lot of charisma. And she has a lot of earnest, which I think is important in a role like that. And in Santa Monica is likable from the beginning. You are waiting for her to hatch from her cocoon and be a butterfly and fly away. And so when she finally does, you're rewarded for having spent time watching this movie, which is nice. I really don't have my only two complaints about this movie. If you put a gun to my head and said, aren't you the guy from Damn You Hollywood? You have to complain about movies. Complain or I won't be able to sleep tonight. It's a little too familiar. Like this plot, it is big bone stuff we've all seen 1,000 times before, with a little bit of window dressing that they play with the idea of 69. And it's like if somebody wanted to make an older version of this movie, but they didn't want to do a remake, so they changed a few things, crossed out the title, and went, voila, new movie. So, not the most original concept I've ever seen. And none of the beats were all that original either. It kind of takes from this kind of movie's playbook. But again, you throw a good enough performance in there and earnest and everything else, and I'll go along for the ride. I'm perfectly fine with a song I've heard before that I've liked before, but it's not quite the same. The other thing is, this seemed like a reach. It's like we're gonna call the movie Summer of '69. Why? Because this girl thinks she has a '69 this guy. Did you start with a title and work your way backwards? Is that what happened here? It's just like, wouldn't it be funny if? And then we're like, we need a real movie to match the title and this absurd idea you have. Instead of
if the title's good enough, that's not necessarily a bad idea.
I hear you, and that's why I'm not banging my fist on here in a shoe, like Khrushchev, going, what the fuck with this movie? I'm just saying, some movies you start with an idea and write forward, or others you have a title and write backwards. This feels like the latter.
Yeah. I've seen entire movies written to escape to present a scene. There's this one scene and it's brilliant, and they write movie before it, they write movie after it, and that's what it's for.
Which sometimes you can get away with that, and sometimes you can't. But all right, Mick, I'll give you the last. You're looking so quizzical. You're like old man
Quizzical.
saying.
Mick, you're quizzical. Congratulations.
I was like, I do that with paintings though, because I've had a couple paintings that I've done that were like, this sounds cool, How would I do that? That's why I was like thinking about it.
He was piecing together. How would I do that?
I was like, Anyway,
All right, I'll give you the last words here, guys. On Summer of '69. Mick, your thoughts?
loved it. 10 out of 10. I'd watch again. Wanamaker
Mac?
compromise this.
Fantastic.
I loved
Mac?
it. I loved it probably for different reasons, but if they served someone as young as her and as old as me, they did a damn good job.
Oh yeah.
Mick? Mac? The M&M
That's
attack?
us.
Big Mac, Patty Whack.
That's right.
Give a dog a bone. This old man came rolling home, but before he did, he asked a question. What if Friday, but hear me out, 2 black chicks? One of them did.
Oh, come on, man. That's been done.
Not quite like this. So our next movie that we're going to talk about is One of Them Days, which is a 2025 American buddy comedy directed by Lawrence Lamont and written by Sarita Singleton. It stars Keke Palmer and the Jizza, who is also the RZA in the Jizza. And now I'm slurring. As two friends,
You might want to lower the jizz too. That's not cool.
I'm having a stroke is what's happening. Must scramble to find rent money after one of their boyfriends blows through it. Cat Williams has a supporting role. The film was released in the U.S. and Canada by Sony Pictures, releasing on January 17th. It was a critical and commercial success, grossing over $51 million. Yeah, this thing had a budget of $14 million and made $51. See what happens when your budgets aren't insane and $200 million? You can actually make money.
They actually do well.
Yes. This thing had a Rotten Tomatoes score of 94%. People love the fuck out of this movie, and I don't blame them. This is one of those where, because Damn You Hollywood just goes at such a breakneck speed, and everyone's like, oh, January is fuck you, it's January, but that's where we catch up on stuff that came out in December that we couldn't get to for one reason or another. We start working on the Oscar movies. I mean, like our January schedule was fucking jam packed with stuff. So this is, and then I don't know if you've ever met Robert Winfrey, but I have, and there's no fucking way I'm going to talk about One of Them Days with him. So,
yeah, but I'm here. I'm going to represent, buddy.
We're doing so much better with race relations. We don't know, the world doesn't need this. So, but I wanted to see it, and I wanted to talk about it, and so I hornswoggled you into it. Mick, starting with you yet again, your thoughts before you saw the movie on One of Them Days. Had you seen the trailers for it? Did you know anything about it?
I actually saw a clip on TikTok once, and so once I will admit, I watched this movie today. Once I sat down, I was like, oh, that's where that's from. So that's always a nice connection in my head. But other than that, I haven't seen much about it, like commercial wise.
I got a question. Are you down with the black comedies? Are you down with this, Fridays, One of Them Days kind of groove?
I like it a lot. I haven't seen a lot of them, but I do like it.
Okay. In your wheelhouse. Fantastic. What about you, Mac?
Definitely not my wheelhouse. I got, like most people, I got burned out in the 70s with the black comedies, and I mean really burned out. When I saw what this was about, I went, oh, come on.
Damn you, Radulich.
Mark? God, I want that on my tombstone. Damn it, Mark. But, and see, they made the same mistakes all the way back to the Jeffersons. In the scene where they discover that the boyfriend's run off with the money. Well, we got to get him. And just like every single scene, it's like, why? He stole the money. He doesn't still have it. He's done something with it. And every single time they motivate themselves to go forward, you think, why? This is clearly what's going on. And of course, it gets worse and worse and worse. And then they're throwing mob bosses in there. They threw so much confetti at us. I was dizzy by the end. It's like, what else can happen? Are we getting a meteor now?
I hope.
I absolutely hated this movie. With too many cliches strung together against too many cliches. I don't care that it was black. It was bad.
First of all, I think it's hilarious that you got worn out on black comedies by the end of the 70s. It's been 100 years. And you're like, no, I'm done with this sort of thing.
It's just it turns it off. It's like, oh, good, they're doing this again.
I was starting to say, and I you wanted to keep going, so I backed down. But let me tell you, I can't just do black comedies in February. I have to do them throughout the year, Mac. I can't just pile them all into Black History Month and then talk about the remaining 11.
We can't be that podcast that only talks about it in February.
Right. Like, I have this black movie. Well, you're gonna have to wait because it's March now.
We're not ready.
Like,
The soup's not done yet.
It's the window.
It's like that's the only time. That's it.
That's right. Because I've only got so many patience for for black stuff. Anyway, no, I wanted to talk about this, and I realized that when I was looking at Nonnas and Summer of '69, I'm like, oh, these are comedies, so this will be a good time to do that. And I think these are different kinds of comedies. You had the more the more heartfelt, true story, tug at your heartstrings comedy, like barely a comedy in Nonnas. And then you have the raunchy screwball, teen sex comedy in Summer of '69, and now you have this urban, zany, day in the life of type comedy. It's and I said Friday, and you're just like, oh, Mark, being you and your strange ways of describing things. But if you think about what Friday was, not just content wise, but in terms of how it affected the culture, people still quote Friday to this day. It was a phenomenon. Like, there's a movie that should not have had 2 sequels and whatever else it had, but it does, because people love the shit out of it. People thought Friday was fantastic, and has so many quotable and memeable lines. And so I think it was, hey, I think this was almost like a reaction to that, as if to say, hey, girls are funny too. They're not, but let's give them that argument for just a moment.
Don't back down on that.
Get him, Mick.
And say, if an angry rapper, and his high pitched comedy friend can do this, why can't these 2 chicks? And I figured, you know what? But capitalism is about products and marketplaces. Try your best and see what happens. And they had a hit on their hands, so you can't knock the hustle. So one of them days. I'm excited to talk about it. Let's get into it. So it's a classic setup. We have we have the odd couple here. We have one girl who is working hard in the world. She's working at a diner. She's trying to get promoted to manager. She's just barely keeping it together, and she is just surrounded by ne'er-do-wells. And as the people doing black fatigue TikToks currently are doing, this is going to age this podcast real well. But as the people doing the black fatigue content on TikTok this week are calling it the Ratchet Blacks. She's just surrounded by them, and she's like, I'm like, I don't want to go down to hell. I want to ascend to heaven here. I got to keep it together. And we have a young man who tickles her fancy, but she's like, I cannot be distracted by the penis. I must progress. I must continue. So she lives with Felix and Oscar. That's what I was thinking about. So the other half of the odd couple, we have an artist, and she's not good with money or responsibility or thinking. But boy, is she pretty, and she's talented. And she has a boyfriend who's a scumbag, and she's awful trusting. And so the rent is due today, as it always is in these movies. And she has given the boyfriend the rent, and he said, but I have a dream, don't you understand? I'm going to sell T-shirts, and now they don't have the money for the rent. And this is one of those buildings that's controlled by a guy who, the one day you don't, because eviction laws aren't real. And you can evict somebody in 10 seconds. That's all it takes, with no warning. And so he's like, if you don't pay me my rent today, and you're being evicted yesterday, all right. So they go out running. They go out, as Max said. They go after him, and it's just one thing after another. We take 5 minutes for her to connect with the guy who turns out is not a firefighter. Is not a gangster or drug dealer. He's a firefighter. They eventually they're not able to get the money back. They run afoul of the guy he's cheating on her with, the girl that she's cheating on. Fuck. Sorry.
He's cheating on her.
Yeah, something like that.
Right.
Anyway,
Slow down, Mark. You know, settle it out.
You gotta stop drinking before these cats, man.
never.
Dude, I'm right there with you. It's fine.
Thank you. What are you drinking tonight, by the way? Give me
Jim
a chance to
Beam.
think here. Jim Beam, fantastic.
The
Um,
one.
All right. So to make a long story short, not only they have a situation where they find a pair of Jordans and they sell the Jordans, and now they've got the money to pay the rent. But as it turns out, they belong to a crime boss, and the crime boss says, "You owe me a new pair of Jordans now." So now they owe like double the money. They are in deep shit. They go back to the apartment. They're evicted from the apartment. And one of the gags of this movie is that despite the fact that this is a low-income area full of ne'er-do-wells and whatnot, a white woman moves into the neighborhood, and she is the walking symbol of gentrification. She is literally like, she walks in followed by like dust bowls, and it's just the piano player stops playing. You can hear doo-doo-doo. It's like, oh no, the white people have come. As is often
The neighborhood's gone to hell now.
Yeah.
People start slowly going inside.
But because white people have no taste, she sees their belongings. She sees the belongings out in the street, and she says, "Oh, you're a talented artist. I would like to buy one of your paintings." And she, of course, because she's white, she has all the money ever, so she's able to pay extra for this painting, which gives our hero the idea of, let's do a pop-up art show. And so they do. And they make the money from the art show, and now they can get their apartment back and move back in. But oh no! The mob boss has showed up. And there was a scene earlier where they were at a check cashing place, and on the board of the check cashing place was a bunch of wanted posters. And so they fire Chekhov's gun, and they call the bonds people, and they come and they collect the mob boss. But oh no! In the middle of all this, the apartment catches on fire. And the building burns. And so, and oh no! The guy running the apartment building is a slumlord, and he is, forced to make repairs and all kinds of things. And so all's well that ends well, and they have a new apartment that is freshly painted, and they're doing better, and they know each other a little bit better now, and they love one another, and it's just fantastic. And I think the girl ends up finally becoming the manager of the place she's working at, after they told her no, because shortly after a wonderful interview, she got in a fist fight with another ratchet girl. So anyway, I need a brain break.
It's been spilling out his ears for a while now.
Yeah, not one of my better plot synopses. But that's okay. Nobody comes to these things for the plot synopsis. Mick, what'd you think of the movie?
I thought it was really funny. This one, the title actually fits, because with all this shit that's happening the whole time, like bad thing after bad thing, it is one of those days.
Yep.
In a weird way,
it's like being fired on your day off.
Right. In a weird way, I found their like money situation relatable. I was like, I feel that, like, especially when they're in the loan office, and the lady was just like, I didn't flinch at all, boo. Like, she was not laughing at the credit score. So lately, I've been applying to apartments, and it's not been going well.
Highly relatable movie, eh?
But I did notice immediately that, like, it's definitely the type A friend with the type B friend, and they are somehow best friends.
Classic odd couple.
Yeah, no, it works really well, and their chemistry together is fantastic. I will also say that Lisa is hot as fuck, and she touches my bisexual heart.
Aww.
Mick, are you trying to say something to us? Just spit it out, babe.
I think she just did. She dumped the other black chick.
I don't know.
Here, I'll do it for you.
She wasn't impressed with the mega schlong at the beginning. She was impressed with the girl looking at it.
Am I outing myself on podcast right now?
Well, I mean, is that really outing, though?
Yeah.
We know you, Mick.
It is not the
I
first
didn't
time
think it
somebody
was
has
a
outed
secret.
themselves on this podcast, and it won't be the last.
It's not. Besides, our viewer will not tell anybody.
Oh yes, the one, yes.
The one viewer, yes.
But I found it all over funny. I did feel like there was a lot going on at once.
Yeah.
But if I kind of turned off my brain, I think the problem was watching it so suddenly after work, and I should have just relaxed and did it anyway. But No, it was a good movie. That's all I gotta say.
Okay. Mac, tell me all the ways you hated this movie.
Well, let me start off with, God damn it, Mark. just so we have the right air. This is where young and old are actually going to matter. If you got burned out on the repetitiveness of black comedies in the late 70s, early 80s, this is just going to, your eyes are going to drop when you see it. Oh dear God, they're doing this again. And they could have called it. Oh no, and then this happened, because this is clearly a farce. And that's okay.
And then the movie.
It's like, okay, we got to this scene. Everything's going to be okay in a minute. Quick, send them to the blood bank and have an accident there, and then we'll have our bloody gorsey.
I had to avert my eyes. That was the one thing.
Yeah, that's like, holy crap, man! They're having this kind of disaster, and I mean, they couldn't go get lunch without just one thing after another. But that, of course, is the thing. That's the idea of a farce. But you have to think a farce out. It has to have a line through it. You can't just have the bird shit on your head and then the car hits you while you're wiping it off. It has to be, you were taking a walk in this area and the bird's been doing this for a while. You have to reveal it. You have to say, okay, he just aligned with every wrong thing he could. That's not what they did for this movie, and that's not what they did for the comedies in the 70s and 80s. It was just one blow dart after another. And I want you to compare the bad guy, the mob boss at the end of this movie, with the one in Summer of '69. Gosh, those are different. You know, this guy you were afraid of. You were wondering not only would he kill them, how would he kill them. The other guy, I kind of thought that the strippers could take him if they tried hard.
They could. They really could.
Yeah, they really could have. He was not their equal in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, so
but this guy,
between hiring Black McMonstercock versus Charlie.
Black McMonstercock. Jesus, Mark. I'm gonna die laughing at you. Black McMonstercock. Yeah, that really says it. That really says it. And I want you to picture this. You're the actor. Let's just suppose you're not that big, but someone's gonna. The props guy. The props guy says, "Here, put this in your pants."
Prosthetic.
Yeah. And be sure it wiggles. We have to see it wiggle.
Yes.
Should Mick Monstercock be my name now?
Yes. Mick Monstercock. Absolutely.
Oh dear. So, due to the fact that I am wildly worn out on this movie, and I didn't find a whole lot of value in it to begin with, because it was an aimless farce. There was no brilliance in it. There was no line through it. Shakespearean farce has a line through it. Most other farce has a line through it. This has a spot on it, and people just wandered around the spot getting stuck. I'm not saying that it was done badly. It was done really well, actually. The acting was quite good. The lighting, the effects, the production was great. The writer should be shot. Assuming he's alive, they may have evoked this from a dead guy, because I've seen this before. So, I'm glad it did well, but I'm definitely not the audience it did well with.
Well, I am. I enjoyed the shit out of this. I watched this one with my kids. Like, Nonnas, I watched separately, and then I told my son. My son wrote me. He was like, he was with his mom last week. He was like, "Hey, what's on streaming that I should watch?" I told him watch Nonnas. I told him watch Havoc, which I reviewed last night with Pat Mullen. And I said those are really, really good. In fact, you'll love Nonnas. And it turns out he did. He's a good boy. But and then Summer of '69, I just watched by myself. I haven't even mentioned it to my kids. But we watched one of them days together on a Friday family night, movie night at the house, and all three of us. It's sometimes it's hard to get my son and my daughter and me all on the same page with a movie, because while we like movies, they grew up with movies because of me. We don't always all have the same taste, right? It's different ages, different genders, different tastes. But we all laughed our ass off at this movie. This was the great unifier. One of them days. It was just one. Like, I love a good absurd comedy, and this was one of those where it was just like it's a Murphy's Law movie. Everything that can go wrong does go wrong, but they are not so incompetent or utterly unlikable that they can't pull their way out of it. And at no point in the movie was I cheering against them. At no point in the movie was like, you're too stupid to win, or you're too unlikable. Like, they're not. Neither one of them is a bad person. One of them's a dingbat, and the other one you couldn't have less luck if she tried. But that's their charm.
Yeah.
Is they're not bad people. They're just due to some not great decision making on one's part or bad luck on the other. They keep finding themselves in shit situations, and then, but then they, not by blind luck necessarily, but through some degree of ingenuity and a little bit of luck, they managed to pull the plane out of the nosedive, which is all you can ask for in one of these movies. Look, I kid about Robert, but Robert's whole thing of like, I don't really like the urban style, I don't like the urban theme, I don't like the urban movie. Fine, not everyone does, but I grew up with this stuff and I've watched them for years, and again I made a joke out of it, but the reality is that there's probably a small market out there, clearly, for people who appreciate two black girls doing the kind of stuff usually done by men, and for a long time only white men. You got, John, what do you call it? You got the Blues Brothers, and you've got all of these other buddy comedies out there, or one of them's white, the other one's black. You got your classic Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor team ups, Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy, and then later on, we talked about this a few years ago with Eddie Murphy. We did an actor focus on him, where we look at 3 different Eddie Murphys, where it's him and another comedian. It was him and Dan Aykroyd, him and Martin Lawrence, and him and Richard Pryor. Which you don't see a lot of in mainstream movies is 2 black chicks. And why not give them a turn at the wheel and see if
Absolutely.
see if they don't crash the car into the tree. And the result of which was 2 kids and an old dead-eyed man really enjoyed this. So I figure that's a win. And then they were rewarded in the theater. I think
it's definitely a win.
I say all the time on Damn You Hollywood, and this is the one thing that Robert and I agree on, is we miss the days where you had choices in the theater. Your choices now, when your choices are like big, loud action, stupid movie over here, or big, loud action, stupid movie with a cape, or or the horror movie that was shot for no money, but where everyone's getting their head ripped off. Like,
slowly.
Doesn't anyone make comedy?
Mick was going to jump in there.
Like doesn't anyone make comedies anymore? And no, they all go to Netflix. But this one, by God, Sony, as many problems as they've had in recent years, sticking to their guns and releasing this one in theater when this was clearly a Netflix movie, by any other name, and they were rewarded for it. And so I think that's a big one, and I'm happy to give it what little attention this podcast can give anything and talk about it here. Is it going to win any, prizes for literature? No, but
it's not meant to. That's not that wasn't their goal.
No, but if you, to round this all the way back to the beginning, and then we can get out of here for the night. If you were like, Mark, what was the great unifying factor in all of these? And that they were perfectly made movies. There's almost nothing wrong with them. They were exactly what all 3 of these movies were exactly what they were meant to be, and were.
You could look at the marquee and pick it and get what you chose.
And these were very satisfying experiences. You went to the store, you ordered a cheeseburger, you got a cheeseburger, and you went home happy and full.
I want more of these,
Yeah, so do I, and I would love to see more of these do well in the theater. That's the other thing about like one of them days is what a success story, because I tell you, again, the other 2 movies went straight to streaming because there's no market and there's no appetite to take a gamble on something like this, but Sony did with this one, so all the credit in the world. So that's
Mark, I want to throw you a curve.
Yes, sir.
Do you remember a black duo movie starring Sidney Poitier and Bill Cosby called Uptown Saturday Night?
I am aware of the movie title. I have not seen the movie.
Okay, if you want to feel good again with similar circumstance with 2 black men, watch that one because it's really good.
You don't have to twist my arm to convince me to watch anything Cosby. So, despite unfortunately what became
despite yes, and there's a lot to despite.
Yeah, well, I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. He was still a talent.
Well, that is a farce that has a line through it, and you think to yourself at the end of the movie, Jesus, I should have seen that coming, and I should have seen that coming, and you don't. That's what I want from farce, and I didn't get that here. So
that's fair. Well, folks, that is our extremely lean and clean and mean reviews of Nonnas, Summer of '69, and One of Them Days. And we will be back to do another one because I doubled up this month with another triple feature. Now, Mac's not going to be here for this one. He has better things to do. But I figured I've tortured you people enough, and I have to throw you a bone. That's how a good, that's how a good BDSM relationship works. So,
just throw me a bone or a boner. I'm just wanting to get that cleared up.
Whatever you need, Daddy. Whatever you need.
Nick on that.
So a week from this Thursday, we're going to do a horror triple feature. It's going to be The Parenting, which is on Max, Control Freak, which is on Hulu, and Holland, which is Amazon Prime. So that'll be fun, and I'm looking forward to it. What do you think about that, Mick?
I'm excited.
Yeah, I know you like the horror movies, so that's why I wanted to, or as Max said, I want to throw you a boner.
I
didn't
really
say it, Max did.
I really appreciated you thinking about me.
Absolutely. I take care of all my children, including me.
Yes, you do.
I am the princess of the podcast.
That
So
is
Obviously,
no
very
true words
obviously.
have ever been spoken, and you wouldn't do a terrible thing like mute me mid-song, like some other people. What monsters do these things?
No.
What monster beats a dead horse? Anyway, speaking of dead horses, last night on Whiskey Rebellion, a special edition of the Whiskey Rebellion, Pat came on. We talked about Havoc, and then Pat wanted to do a bunch of manly man scores and ratings and whatnot. It was a really fun bit. Sometimes Pat pitches me stuff, and I'm like, "What are you, high?" But this worked out well, and I rather enjoyed myself. This Thursday coming up is The West Wing. It'll be myself, Jesse, and Andrew Graham. We'll be talking season 5. A transition in the writing and in the presentation. Pretty good stuff. And then Friday, which was rescheduled from last Sunday, is Sessions. We're going to talk about our good friend Alexis and her phrase, "the plugs that pay me," and her history of being on this podcast, and also how our plug sections take way too long. And I'm going to write a rap. Yeah, and I'm going to write. Well, nobody in this group is succinct, including myself. So I'm going to write a rap song about it, set to.
Oh, for God's sake!
Set to the money, yes. Set to the money by Naughty by Nature, the old Shane McMahon theme. So that'll be fun. We're going to tell fun Alexis stories and write rap music. It's the best podcast ever.
I may be out of the country when you do that, just to be safe.
Fantastic. And then I think that's it. Yeah, Sunday, and this will be the last plug I do. Mick, we're back on the Metal Hammer of Doom Jukebox.
I'm so excited.
I know, it's like your favorite one. We're doing Crowbot, Obsidian, and I can't wait to tell you all about Crowbot. Go back and listen to their previous albums, even, along with Obsidian. You will not be sorry. We're going to welcome you to Fat City. It's going to be fantastic.
And
right.
If y'all, whoever's watching, maybe the one person who's watching or who watches this later, I will reveal my OnlyFans whenever we do Metal Hammer of Doom.
Oh, fantastic. You gonna do OnlyFans coaching?
Sure.
Oh, yeah, that's in there. Good. I can tell Jesse to take the night off. He doesn't have to do this segment. Our last segment of the evening will be Mick's OnlyFans coaching. It's gonna be great.
Right.
Dude, I need to make money, okay?
I hear you. I am here to support you from afar. So
Half of a heart, but you get what I mean. I'm holding my phone.
Half of a what? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All right. Speaking of half of things, Mac, you got anything you want to plug before you go?
No, Mark. I'll wait till we're off the air to say that to you.
All right, Mac. If you like Mac and his vocal stylings, he will be back in June. As a matter of fact, he'll be back next month. Next month is Pride Month, just like February is Black History Month. June is Pride Month. And Mac decided to come on and talk about our Wachowski focus. We'll be looking at the Bound, Cloud Atlas, and Jupiter Ascending, which I assume is because you like the science fiction.
Well, that's complex, but that also, yes.
Okay, fair enough. Folks, thank you for joining us here. This was a treat. For Mac, for Mick, for Mark, 3Ms, what you gonna do? Be well, be safe, and behave.